In the last video, we talked about conditional probability. In this video, we're just going to give a short description of something called independence. The idea is we've got two random events, x and y, and they're independent if the probability of x given y is equal to the probability of x. In other words, the probability of one variable does not depend on the probability of what's happening with the other variable. So just some typical examples. You're flipping a coin. The outcome of the second coin flip doesn't depend on the outcome of a first coin flip, right? Whether you flip a head or a tails on the first one is irrelevant. You still have an equal probability of getting both, getting either heads or tails if you flip a second time, no matter what, assuming it's a fair coin. Same thing with a fair die. What you roll on a die a second time doesn't depend at all on what you got on the first die. The probabilities are still the same. So these are typical examples. But let me briefly mention why this is an important concept for justice. Let's go back to our probability of being stopped by a cop. We would want the probability of being stopped by a cop to be independent of the race of the driver. Think about what that means. If that's not true, if there's different probabilities of getting stopped for different races, then that means there's a justice issue, right? Racial profiling, for example. And here's another example, not related to criminal justice, but certainly something that we've heard about in discussions over the last decade or so. Think about the probability distribution for salary for a given job, right? We're going to assume every aspect of the job is the same. Well, the equal pay for equal work principle would want the probability of that, the probability distribution for salary for that job to be independent of the gender of the employee. So the probability of a given salary given the gender of an employee should be the same as just the probability of getting that salary for that job. So this is the concept of independence. As you can see, it's defined in terms of conditional probabilities. In the next section, we're going to talk about how to use data to calculate conditional probabilities. And that's going to involve something called Bayes' theorem.